Hall and Wilcox acknowledges the traditional custodians of the lands on which this podcast is recorded. We pay our respects to their elders, past and present, and to all First Nations people joining us today.
Hello and welcome to the Self-insurers in Australia podcast. My name is Alorna Strong and I'm a partner at Hall and Wilcox and oversee our national self-insurance practice. And I'm delighted to be the host of our new podcast for self-insurers. In this series, we'll be discussing topics that are relevant to your day-to-day management of claims as a self-insurer and give you an insight into how claims may be managed in various jurisdictions across Australia. So let's jump into our next episode. I'm delighted to be joined today by Andrew Stamp, a partner in our statutory insurance team in Victoria. Andrew has many years of experience acting for self-insurers in Victoria, and I'm fortunate enough to work with him on a daily basis. Welcome, Andrew.
Thanks, Alorna. Happy to be here.
Thank you. So today I'm going to take you through two scenarios and get your views on whether or not these injuries have arisen out of or in the course of employment. So I'll take you through scenario one, Andrew. So Emma is a warehouse supervisor and has just finished her shift and was eager to get home. As she was about to leave the warehouse, she realised she had forgotten her personal phone charger at her workstation. Wanting to quickly grab it before heading out, she hurried back to her workstation. On the way back to her workstation, she slipped on a patch of spilled oil near one of the loading docks and fell, spraining her ankle. Emma was taking a shortcut when she fell over through the loading docks. She did not follow the usual pathway when leaving and arriving to work as she was in a rush to get home. Andrew, do you think this injury arose out of or in the course of employment?
The short answer is yes. However, if you were new to the game, I think you'd be attracted to a few concepts in that question. The shift had finished. She's getting a personal effect. She was hurrying. She was taking a shortcut. But I don't think any of those things stop this being a compensable injury. Now, it's true that collecting a personal phone charger is not part of her job, but it's been established law for a really long time now, I think 90 years since the High Court looked at this in a case of Henderson, that as long as what is being done is something incidental to the performance of the work and is reasonably required or expected or authorised to be done, then it falls within the course of employment. That doesn't mean that questions ever easy to answer, and a lot of the cases on it have flip-flopped all over the place through the various courts as they go up the jurisdictions. But I come back to what I said. I think this one is compensable. It's very relevant, I think, that she hadn't left the premises. I think it's probably a red herring, this idea that it's a personal phone charger that's being collected. But I do note that I reckon we all get pretty excited about this idea around phones and these things that really intermingle between your personal life and your outside life. But if this worker was returning to retrieve her lunchbox, I don't think anyone would really be questioning this at all. A jumper, similarly. Where we get weird is on this concept of things that are intermingling, and phones are a classic example, but red herring, it's compensable. She's not doing anything unusual. She's not doing some Mission Impossible type rappel into the workplace through a skylight after she'd already left the premises. It's clearly everyday type stuff going on here. And if it's a statutory claim brought for this incident, I'd be recommending accepting it.
That's great, Andrew. So the fact that she didn't follow the designated pathway, that wouldn't be something considered as serious and willful misconduct, would it? What's your thought of that?
No, I think that's fine. If she was doing something outrageously beyond the scope of a walkway, if she's riding a conveyor belt as if she's some skateboarder, then
Yeah.
it is starting to get a little bit more interesting. But here it looks pretty vanilla. Walking through a loading dock, it is something that would be traversed by truck drivers and the like every day of the week. It mightn't be where you're meant to walk, but it's not so outrageous that it takes you outside the course and scope of your employment.
Okay, so what about Andrew if she had actually left? So if she'd gotten in her car, driven away, and then went, oh, I've forgotten my work laptop or I've forgotten my phone charger or whatever the case may be. And she turned around and drove back into work, and then as she walked through the warehouse, she fell over. What would you say in that scenario?
Sorry, she's still coming back to collect her phone, her personal phone, or
Perhaps she's still coming back to collect her personal phone.
I'd say bad luck, Miss Potential Plaintiff. You're out of there. You're not coming back to the workplace for anything that's required, expected, or authorised to do. You're really doing it for your own personal reasons now to collect your own personal piece of equipment. Wouldn't be compensable.
So moving on from that, I think, and you've probably alluded to it a bit in your answer, if she was coming back in that second altered scenario, so she'd left the work premises and thought, oh, I'm working from home tomorrow, I better go back and get my work laptop, would you then consider that one to be compensable because she's coming back to get something that she needs for work?
Yeah, I think so. The idea of coming back to collect a computer can still be a grey area, but your question was framed in needing it for work from home the next day. In that situation, it would be something that she requires, and I think that would bring her within coverage of the legislation. Now, if she wasn't required to work from home the next day, if she was taking it home because, I don't know, she's some Fortnite enthusiast and she uses it as a personal gaming computer, then the fact that it's a work computer she does it on, probably not cool from policy points of view, but that would, I think, fall the wrong side. She would not be under a compensable umbrella in that situation.
Okay, so what evidence perhaps would assist, say, in the defence of this matter? Probably we've gone through a few scenarios, so maybe the original scenario, but from a common law perspective, perhaps, Andrew, because you've said the original scenario, she would be found to have been, the injury would have been found to have arisen out of her in the course of her employment. So there's probably not much you can do to defend that. But if she'd lodged a serious injury application and was suing for negligence, what perhaps material could assist you in mitigating damages or defending negligence?
Look, there are a few things. If the claim hadn't already been accepted for statutory purposes, it'd be helpful to try and work in those grey areas a little bit of things that might make it more competitive for the employer. Are there policies, for example, that no personal mobile devices are allowed on site? Seems pretty unlikely, probably not even the case in, I don't know, the Pentagon. So that probably won't get you far. You could try and work out whether the charger was incompatible with her any work supplied device. Again, it won't get you far, but it might just make it all a little murkier. I think from a common law perspective, you'd be really looking for evidence of training or very clear signposting that you're meant to only stay on designated walkways, that the loading dock isn't ever to be traversed by anyone but a truck driver entering or exiting their vehicle. That type of thing, I think, would be really key. I've taken it as given that the loading dock area forms part of the employer's premises, but if you're actually defending it, you'd want to make sure, so you'd want to look at all lease documents and the like to make sure that someone else doesn't own, operate and control that area and have responsibility for making sure that it's safe at all times. In other words, getting rid of the slippery substance that she fell in.
Excellent. Thanks, Andrew. I might now head over to scenario 2 and I'll take you through that. So Adam was employed as a security guard with Secure Corp on a part-time basis. Depending on the number of shifts he was allocated, he'd work somewhere between 10 to 20 hours per week. On the 28th of May 2023, Adam was rostered to work as a security guard at the Melbourne Cricket Ground. Adam received emails from his employer regarding what gates were open and should be accessed to attend work. Adam was driven by a co-worker who parked his car in the Yarra car park outside of the MCG, the Melbourne Cricket Ground, entering through gate 7. Whilst walking through the car park to the MCG to commence work, Adam slipped and injured his left leg. He then lodged a claim for compensation on the 12th of June 2023, alleging that he slipped and injured his left leg and knee in the car park at the MCG near Gate 7. Adam has also alleged a psychological condition. Now, Andrew, taking this scenario into consideration, do you think Adam's injury has been sustained in the course of or arising out of his employment?
If this situation landed on my desk, I would be vexed if they were the entirety of the facts. So there's a lot in that, but there needs to be a whole lot more to properly answer that. What I can say is he hasn't started his shift. Doesn't necessarily determine it. We know that injuries can happen before a shift, after a shift, even on a weekend, that type of thing. But that is a pretty strong indication this won't be compensable. It smacks of a journey claim. That's a journey from home to the workplace. That's no longer compensable in our state. On those facts as you've given them, I'd say not compensable. Getting close to it, but probably not compensable. He's yet to commence work, and there's just a lack of indication that he was expressly directed to park there, whatever. So falls the wrong side, I would think.
Okay, and picking up on just what you mentioned there, Andrew, about the car park, what about if the scenario was slightly changed? And I know there are a lot of facts in it, but what if it was the case that Adam was told by his employer to park in that particular car park? The car park was owned and operated by his employer. Would that change your opinion in terms of whether or not the injury had arisen out of or in the course of his employment?
Yes, it would. In that situation, I think Adam would probably, more than 4 days out of 5 of any court sitting week be found to have a compensable injury. That issue of direction to park there is really determinative in a case like this. It does get pretty close to a situation discussed by the magistrate's court before in a case of O'Day. It's a friend for every employer out there, that case, and the magistrate does go through a range of considerations that led him to find that a fall in a car park was not compensable. Relevant to this, the magistrate considered that the car park was not controlled by the employer or where the worker had to go to that particular day, and wasn't a requirement, expectation or anything like that for her to park. It was really a matter of convenience. But in the situation you've described of actual direction to park there, I think that is enough for the condition to be, or the injury to be, compensable.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. So in terms of the first scenario, what evidence do you think you would need to assist in defending that? So in the scenario that I originally read to you where he just parked at that car park, which wasn't owned or operated, or he wasn't directed to attend there, what sort of evidence do you think would assist you if we were having to reject or deny this claim?
We'd want confirmation beyond instructions. We want documentary confirmation that the car park wasn't owned or operated by the employer. We'd want evidence that it was available to the public, evidence that the worker didn't get some special concession type rate for parking there, evidence that the employer didn't reimburse parking is all going to be key. It'd be lovely if there was also evidence available for the employer that they did not encourage in any way parking in the car park. Maybe they encourage people to use public transport or ride a bike or anything other than take an e-scooter, because I hate e-scooters. But really moving away from any idea that they are actually directed or rewarded for parking there.
Excellent. Thanks, Andrew. That was really informative. I think we'll leave it there. We're running out of time. So I just wanted to thank everyone for listening today. In next week's episode, we'll be discussing the ACT and the Northern Territory's perspective on a similar scenario that I've just gone through with Andrew. So I hope you will join us for that discussion. As always, please get in touch with us if you have any questions. You can find our details on our website, which is hallandwilcox.com.au, or connect with us on LinkedIn. If you've enjoyed today's episode, then rate, review, review or follow our podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks again, everyone. Bye for now.
This podcast is not legal advice and should not be relied upon as such. You should always obtain legal advice about your specific circumstances.